gate characteristic which is drawn over here. Here we have taken gate characteristic is drawn between the Vg and Ig. So Vg in y axis and Ig in x axis. So as you know, our thyristor, when we are going to draw a PN junction characteristics, it's somewhat similar to the gate characteristics. This is your layer structure of SCR. This is your P type layer, N type layer, then again P type layer, then again N. And our this gate is inbuilt here in inner P region. So gate circuit will be like, it is can be considered as a PN junction. This is your P and this is your N. So this is like a diode characteristics. So as you know, this diode will be like highly doped and this inner P is moderately doped. So that means there is a difference between the doping profile. So as we are starting with the highly doped to the lightly doped region, what we find? We find the scattering between the curves. Our characteristic will be scattered between the different curves. So starting from the highly doped to lightly doped. So let us start with the drawing of curves between these axes, x and y axis. Y axis as a Vg and x axis as a Ig. So we have drawn these characteristics namely as a curve 1. This is your curve 1. Curve 1 is drawn with the assumption that the 1 is drawn is started from the here like this. This is your curve 1. It is highly doped with the assumption that our PN junction is highly doped. When the PN junction is highly doped, we are having the characteristics toward the Ig axis. It is somewhat towards the Ig axis because there is a much change in the current with a little change in voltage. If your junction is highly doped, you will find abrupt changes or sudden changes in your current values and lesser changes in voltage values. So this can be considered as a lowest voltage values curve that must be applied to the SCR to turn it on. This can be considered as a lowest voltage value curve for SCR to turn it on. This curve is drawn with the assumption that our PN junction is highly doped. If the PN junction is highly doped, that means the small change in voltage will give the large change in current. So this curve will be like, it is towards the x-axis or current axis. Now let us move with the lightly doped junction. If we are considering our PN junction is lightly doped, our gate to cathode circuit can be considered as a diode circuit, and this diode circuit we are assuming that our diode is lightly doped. When we are having the lightly doped region or PN junction, what happen? We are having this kind of characteristics profile. when we are going to draw the characteristics with the assumption that our PN junction is lightly doped, when we are having the lightly doped gate to cathode characteristics, that means now in this time curve 2 is drawn like this, starting from the origin, then it is drawn towards the y-axis. Is it drawn near or towards the y-axis, because there will be lot of voltage required to change the current. That means we require a larger voltage to break the junction. That means we are going to apply a large voltage to change the current. To change the current, we are going to apply the larger voltage. So that means it is a high value voltage curve. When we are having the lightly doped junction, then we are considering it as a highest possible voltage values, and curve 1 is lowest possible value of the voltage that can be turned on the SCR. So all the gate characteristics can be considered in between these two limits, curve 2 and curve 1. All the gate characteristic curves lies between these two curves. We have considered the highly doped junction, we have considered lightly doped junction. So all these characteristic of gate to cathode, if we are going to draw, it will lie between these two curves 1 and 2. That means this scattering of curves is due to the variation in doping profile. Variation in the doping profile. So now this is our Ig max value. So maximum value of current that can be applied to the gate circuit, it is Ig max. Then we are having the Vg max, it is the maximum value of voltage that can be applied to the gate circuit. Then we are having the P average gate power, it is also mentioned in your data sheet. I am defining you parameters which is required to design a gate circuit. When we are going to design a gate drive circuit, then you should importance of these parameters. So we have taken the maximum value of gate current, which is represented here Ig max. We are having the Vg max, which is nothing but the maximum value of voltage that can be applied, and we are having the minimum value of gate current that required to turn on the SCR. Ig minimum is the value of gate current that must be applied to turn on the SCR. For reliable turn on the SCR, it will at least be required the Ig minimum value. Vg minimum, it is the minimum voltage that can required between the gate to cathode junction for turn on the SCR. Then we are having the VNG, non-triggering gate voltages, or you can take it as a VNG also, non-triggering gate voltage. That means all other signals, in order to minimize the false triggering or unwanted triggering, all the noise signal should be less than this non-triggering gate voltage value. If your noise signal is greater than the non-triggering gate voltage, that can be responsible for the false triggering of SCR. So it should be ensured that all the noise signal, all the other unwanted signals should be less than the non-triggering gate voltages. Firstly, we are going to discuss the limits. which is specified by the manufacturers in order to avoid the permanent damage in our gate to cathode junction, which is a J3 junction. So firstly, already told you, VG max, it is a maximum gate voltage limit. Then we are having the maximum gate current limit. This is our maximum value of gate current that can bear by that circuit or junction. Then we are having the average or rated gate power dissipation limit. This is our, it is specified already in your data sheet. What is the maximum or rated or average gate power limit in your gate circuit. Now we are moving towards the, in order to have the reliable turn on, what are the parameters which is specified by the manufacturers? These parameters are specified by the manufacturer in order to have the reliable turn on, efficient turn on. So this is the minimum value of gate voltage that can be required to turn on the SCR. So IG minimum is a minimum gate current required to turn on the SCR. V and G, it is non-triggering gate voltages. It is your non-triggering gate voltage. So all other noise signals or unwanted signal should be less than this limit, non-triggering gate voltage limit, in order to prevent the unwanted turn on or false triggering of the SCR. Understand what is load line and how we are going to design a gate drive circuit. This is your gate drive circuit. Now how we are going to start our designing? Firstly, you will require a gate source. You will require a gate source. Gate voltage source. And we have to draw the load line characteristic of this gate voltage source. So let us, we are having this E voltage source here and having the internal resistance of R1. This is your R1, which is in series with the voltage source. This is a representation of voltage source. Voltage source can be represented as like a voltage value and a series resistance. So we should know this characteristics of this voltage source first. So all possible operating points is called a load line. All possible operating points will be called as a load line. So we have to draw the load line first, then we have to see that this is our operating point lies here. What is significance of load line here? We have to find the intersection of, we are going to draw our characteristics. This is our characteristics, which is lies between the curve 1 and curve 2. This is curve 3. Okay. So we have considered a thyristor or SCR, and we are going to draw the characteristic just like a curve 3, and we are going to draw this load line AD. This load line AD, this is your D and this is your A. So we have to find what are these points. What are these points? So firstly we have to write the KVL equation of this gate circuit. In order to find these points A and D, firstly we have to write the KVL equation of this circuit. gate characteristic, this gate circuit, gate to cathode circuit. So here we have written E is equal to source current Is multiplied with the internal resistance of that source or series resistance in that circuit plus Vg. Vg is nothing but the voltage between, this is the voltage, Vg is the voltage between the gate to cathode side, gate to cathode terminal. This is gate terminal, this is cathode terminal. So Vg is the voltage between these two terminals. So which is written over here, E is equal to Is multiplied with R1 plus Vg. This is your equation 1. What is the other equation? Ig is equal to Is. This is your second equation. You can see here source current is equal to the gate current because this is a series circuit. So we are having the two equation. Now we are going to, by using these two equations, we have to deduce the equation. We are just going to put Is is equal to Ig here. Then now the equation comes to be E is equal to Ig into R1 plus Vg. So now we are having the parameter here Vg and Ig. This is your load line equation. We are having the x parameter here, we are having the y parameter. X parameter here, y is your Vg and Ig is your x parameter. We can also rewrite this equation like Vg is equal to minus of R1 into Ig plus Eg. This equation will be like y is equal to mx plus c. This is your equation, which is m is the slope of this characteristics, which is nothing but the m is equal to minus of R1 minus of R. What is this R1? This is the internal resistance or series resistance in this circuit. What is R here? R is can be taken as a all effective resistance of this source, effective resistance or internal resistance of the source, or circuit series resistance. Whole circuit series resistance can be taken as a R1. So this is minus of R1 will be the slope of this line. So we have drawn this line with a negative slope. This M will be minus of R1. Now what are these points A and D? So we have to find out these points. In order to find out these points, we have to put firstly Vg is equal to 0, Vg is equal to 0 in order to find out the value of Ig. If we are putting the Vg is equal to 0, Vg is equal to 0 in this equation, what we will find? We have Ig is equal to E divided by R1. E divided by R1. E divided by R1. That means now we have find the Ig is equal to E divided by R1. So it can be less than the value of Ig max, it can be better than the value of Ig max. It will depend upon the value of internal resistance or series resistance and value of E. What we are going to apply here. Let this is here, which is nothing but the D value. It is your E divided by R1. This is the point. Because here Vg is equal to 0 and Ig is equal to, so we have got the value of this point E divided by R1. E divided by R1. This Ig is also known as a short circuit value, short circuit value, a short circuit current, short circuit value of the current or short circuit current of the this source, short circuit current, now we are going to find out the value of this A point. Already we have find out the value of this D point, which is nothing but the E divided by R1. Already we have calculated this short circuit value of the source, short circuit current of the source. Now this is A point. We are going to put Ig is equal to 0. Ig is equal to 0 in this equation. Then we are having the Vg is equal to E. And as you can see here, this Vg is lesser than the E, because we have a this is the E value is the source value, and we are having a some drop here because of resistance, and then we will get the value of Vg. So that means this E will be on the this axis, y axis, but it will be somewhat larger than the Vmax. So we have considered the point A. Here we have Vg is equal to E. This is the E point. Okay, this is your E point. So open circuit voltage of the source. So now we are joining these 2 points A and D. This is your load line. Now we have already drawn our VG-IG characteristic of the SCR. This is your VG-IG characteristic of the SCR, and these two curves, curve 3, this is your gate characteristic of SCR, curve 3, and this is load line. When we have found the intersection between these two curves, which is found here at the point of S, this is the intersection. So that means our gate characteristic operating point will be at S. So from this point we have found what is the required value of Vg and what is the required value of Ig. We will get it from here. This is the information what we are getting from this load line characteristics and this plotted gate characteristics. So we will get the information. The operating point is lies in the intersection between these two curves. If we are having the characteristic like this, that means our intersection point will be like this. Now our operating point will be shifted at this point. If we are going to have a characteristic like this, then our operating point will be lies here at the intersection between the drawn curve and the load line. If we are having the curve 1 as a gate characteristics, that means at this point we have found the intersection S1. If we are having the curve 2 as a characteristic of our selected SCR, so that means now in this time our intersection point lies here S2. So that means all the operating points will be lies at the intersection of gate characteristics and load line, because all the operating points lies in this load line. That's why load line is a locus of operating points. Load line is the set of operating points. The safe operating region, this is our SOA, safe operating region. As you know, our gate characteristics will be scattered between these two curves, curve 1 and curve 2. This is our maximum value of the voltage, this is minimum value of the voltage. So this is our point B, this is a point C. Our gate power dissipation, PG, average power dissipation, P average, PG average will be V into G, simply just V into G, and it is already specified the manufacturer that it should be within a limit. So let us have this constant. It is already specified by the manufacturer that our gate power dissipation should not be increased by the PG average. So if you are considering this as a constant, so VGIG is a, if VGIG constant, that means this is about the equation of rectangular hyperbola. So if you are going to draw the characteristics of a PG average, it will be like this. It will be like this. This is our rectangular hyperbola, and this is our Vg into Ig equal to constant. So we are going to draw all perpendicular from this curve and also from here. So our safer operating region of a gate drive will be lies between the B, C, this is D, E, F and G. B, C, D, E, F and G. This is our safer operating region, because after G we are having a non-triggering gate voltage. So if you are going beyond this, lesser than this non-triggering gate voltage, your thyristor would not be turned on. So this is the limit, and this is H is also can be considered here. So this is the limit. This is the safer operating region limit. In order to have the reliable turn on, effective turn on, our operating point and all other limits of gate voltage, gate current and gate power dissipation will be lies between these loop, which is nothing but the B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So our safer operating limit will be like this. This is a shaded region. SOA will be, SOA of a gate drive will should be lies between this safer operating area. This is this dashed area, this highlighted area will give you the effective turn on. Now again we are coming to the load line. This is A and D. This D. This is load line. So gradient of the load line AD. Gradient means what? That's a slope which is already calculated, minus R. If we are calculating it graphically, what we have? Graphically, if we are going to calculate the gradient of this load line AD, this is your D point. So it is nothing but the gradient will be like OA divided by OD, which is the E, because it is the open circuit voltage E here. OA is your E and OD is your IS or IG. So that will give you the series resistance R1 or internal resistance of the source. So that means gradient of line this AD will give you the required gate source resistance. Okay. If you are going to calculate the minimum value which is required in your gate circuit or series resistance required in your gate circuit, you can draw a tangent line starting from the point A to this average power curve, which is now AC. This is this dashed line will be like tangent on average power curve. This will give you the minimum required resistance in your gate circuit. Minimum required gate circuit. So when we are coming to the designing part of the circuit, we have already calculated this series resistance, which should be required in order to maintain the safer limit of the current in this circuit. So firstly, don't consider this R2 resistance. Don't consider it. We will discuss it afterwards. Firstly, we are going to discuss the significance of R1. So R1 is a series resistance which is connected in your gate to cathode circuit. This will maintain the current to an acceptable level. That means this resistance is responsible to maintain a safer limit of the current in this circuit. So how we are going to calculate it? This can be taken as a gradient of this load line. Already discussed it. Go back and you can have the citation. And also it is to provide a sufficient triggering current. It has to provide the sufficient triggering current. That means it is chosen very optimally. It cannot be so high, it cannot be so low. If it is too low, it will create a damaging current. If it is too high, it will not allow to supply a required amount of minimum current which is responsible to turn on this SCR. So this R1 should be selected very carefully. Okay, so it can be calculated very easily by using a simple KVL equations and Ohm's law and the corresponding device ratings which is specified by the manufacturers. Now coming to the R2 point, this is your known as gate to cathode resistance. It is also known as RGK, or it is also called a RGC. So it is connected here to prevent the triggering by the thermally generated leakage current in the gate region. It will prevent the triggering. It will prevent the triggering by the thermally generated leakage current. As you know, when we are having the thermally generated carriers, it will require a bypass path. This is junction J1, this is junction J2, this is junction J3. We are connecting a resistance here between this is your gate, this is your cathode. If the charges are generated because of thermal reasons or because of temperature, it will create a bypass path. It will create a bypass path. And because of this resistance, our dV by dt triggering is also enhanced. Our dV by dt triggering is also enhanced. So it is kind of protection which will give you when your thermally generated carriers are there in the junction, it will create a bypass to that kind of charges. It will also increase the dV by dt triggering capability. But it has a drawback. It has a drawback. That means it will increase the value of latching current. It will increase the value of latching current and holding current and corresponding holding current. This is a drawback. When we are using this R2, it will give the rise in latching and holding current levels. Also, it lowers the turn off time. It will reduce the turn off time TQ. R1 is your series resistance. R2 is your resistance connected across the gate and cathode junction. And this is our load circuit. So we are going to calculate the value of gate voltage or gate source voltage here in this gate to cathode circuit. Or in other words, we can say that we are going to calculate the voltage which is required in gate drive circuit. This is your gate drive circuit. This is your gate drive. We are going to calculate the value of E. So let us assume that this SCR is having the minimum gate voltage requirement as a VG minimum, and it will have the minimum gate current IG minimum. If the IG minimum is flowing towards the SCR, then some part is going towards this resistance like this. Again going back to source. So this part which is flowing through R2 will be represented like as VG minimum divided by R2. VG minimum divided by R2. This is the part of current which is flowing towards the R2 side. The current which is flowing toward the R2 side. and you are having the Ig minimum towards the SCR gate side. So total current will be like Ig minimum divided by R2 plus Ig minimum. Some part is going towards the R2 side, whose values is equal to Vg minimum divided by R2, and the other part is going towards the SCR gate side, which is equal to the Ig minimum. So total current which is supplied by the source E will be like this. This is the total current supplied by the source, and we are considering the source resistance or series resistance as R2 multiplied with this series resistance R2. So this is a drop here, voltage drop here. This is a voltage drop created here in this R2, and we have already considered the voltage between gate to cathode junction at the present moment is Vg minimum. So this is your Vg minimum. So that means this equation gives you the value of E here. Gives you the value of E here. The expression which is written here, please consider it. This is not R1, this is your R2, and this RS is your R1. This is your R1. So now this equation will be like E, the source voltage E is equal to Vg minimum divided by R2 plus Ig minimum whole multiplied with the R1. This is a voltage drop in the series resistance plus Vg minimum. This is a required value of E here in our gate drive circuit. Continuous pulse triggering and gate pulse triggering. So before coming to the gauge pulse triggering, firstly we have to consider the continuous pulse triggering. What is continuous pulse triggering? We are going to draw so if we are drawing, this is magnitude of Vg, Ig and Pg. Whether it's a Pg average or Pg max, it will be decided later. So this is your triggering frequency, this T. So if the gate pulses are continuously applied to the gate throughout the cycle, if the gate pulses are applied throughout the cycle, then it is known as continuous pulse triggering. At this moment, our Pg max and Pg average, these two things are equal, because we are having the continuous pulse triggering, and under this condition, continuous pulse triggering, our Pg max and Pg average are equal quantities, equal factors, because we are doing the continuous firing pulses, and because of this continuous firing pulses, this kind of shape or DC kind of signal we are going to apply the gate. At this point, our Vg is constant, Ig is also same thing. So multiplication of these two factors is also a constant. Vg into Ig is also constant. So Pg is also kind of same profile. That means all these factors are this kind of profile, constant profile with respect to time throughout the cycle. So if we are going to calculate the maximum power, so this is also a maximum power at this moment here. So at this moment, maximum and average are the same thing. So when we are doing the numericals, this, if it is written over here, the continuous pulse triggering is used. That means in that point of time we are going to consider the PG max and PG average are equal quantities, are equal things, and this kind of firing pulses we are using in the application of when we are using the highly inductive loading, highly inductive loads. When we are having the highly inductive loads, this kind of continuous pulse triggering is used. Continuous pulse triggering is used. This can be explained by using a simple thing. If this is your thyristor and it is supply inductor and this is your source, this is your Vs, this is your inductor L, this is your thyristor T. So when you are going to apply the gate pulse at the steady state, it is behaving like a closed switch. Up till how long we are going to connect this gating pulses, it will be calculated like, if you are going to apply the KVL, so it will be Vs is equal to VL. So what is VL? It is L di by dt, L di by dt. So Vs is equal to L di by dt. This is the equation of this system. We are going to calculate how much time is required to apply this gating pulse. Up till how long we are going to apply this gating pulse. So this is the time. So we are going to rearrange this equation. So dt will be like, dt is equal to L upon Vs di. So it can be rewritten as T is equal to L into I divided by Vs. So by these factors L, I and Vs, we are having the value of T here. If L is larger, if inductance is higher, going towards the higher, your T is also going towards the higher side. That means you require you are going to require a lot of time to apply this gate pulse. The duration of application of this gate pulse will be having the large. So that means this T will be larger as L will be larger. So you are going to apply the gate pulse for a longer duration if you are having the highly inductive loading. So this kind of continuous pulse triggering will be used when your loading is having the large inductance value. Gate triggering, in the pulse gate triggering, we are having this kind of profile. We are applying the voltage VG voltage here. This is in the form of pulses. If this is a triggering cycle T, so it is not applied for the whole triggering cycle. It will be some pre-decided value. Then we are having the VG, IG and PG. This is your time axis. In this kind of pulse triggering method, we are not applying the VG for the whole duration of time. It will have some pre-decided value. Let it be a T on dash. Here this T on dash will not be equal to the turn on time. It may be equal to turn on time, but it is not similar to the turn on time. So the gate pulse is applied for a pre-decided time, not for a whole duration, not for the whole duration. So that means it comes up to be in the kind of pulses whose duration is pre-decided. So in this time your PG max will be like, this is the value of PG max. PG max will be at this point, and now the PG average is somewhat different because it is not equal to the PG max at this moment. You know, PG max is equal to the, at this moment, PG max is equal to the VG into IG. If we are going to calculate the PG average for a one cycle, this is a one cycle. This is a one cycle. For a one cycle, you are going to apply a pulses for a T1 duration, not for the whole T. So that means your DT cycle will be like T on dash by T. This is your duty cycle. Now at this point, PG average will be, PG average will equal to the duty cycle times PG max. Duty cycle times PG max. This is PG max into T on, PG max into T on dash divided by T. It is the average power dissipated in the gate circuit. So that means when you are using the pulse gate triggering, PG max, PG average is less than PG max, or may be equal to PG max. It is always PG average is less than or equal to PG max. Now coming to this relation, at this moment it is clear that the PG average is less than or equal to PG max when we are considering the pulse gate triggering. Now coming to this relation, here T is your time period. It can be written as 1 upon F. F is your triggering frequency. T is equal to 1 upon F. So it can be rewritten, this equation can be rewritten. So PG average is equal to T on dash divided by 1 upon F into PG max. So if you are going to calculate the triggering frequency, so it will be like PG average is equal to T on dash F PG max. So F will be like PG average divided by T on dash into Pg max. This is your formula to calculate the triggering frequency. So this kind of relation is very important when we are calculating the value of triggering frequency in your numericals. So as a conclusion, thyristor can be considered to be a charge control device. Why this charge control device? We are going to apply a gate current or gate pulses. Gate current or gate pulses. What is I? I is nothing but the dq upon dt. So indirectly we can say that the thyristor is considered to be a charge control device. So commonly we are using the pulse triggering methods to turn it on. We are using the pulse triggering very oftenly, very commonly we are using the pulse triggering methods. Higher the magnitude of gate pulse, lesser the time to turn it on. That means if you are going to apply a larger magnitude of gate current, your turn on time will be decreased. It should also be ensured that the pulse width is sufficiently large, which allows to anode current exceed the latching current. It is also ensured that the pulse width, the width of that pulse which is applied to turn it on, is having the sufficient width. What sufficiency in the sense? The anode current exceeds the latching current. This is the limit up to how long you are going to connect the or decide the pulse width. Thank you.